Hey, I'm Stephanie, and welcome to Wine Club. This is the place where I drink good wine while I whine about a bad book. And unfortunately, I am talking about Sleep Tight by J.H. Margert. Apologies if I mispronounce that last name. I do want to give a warning that there are going to be spoilers in this review. If you want a spoiler-free version of this review, please check out my What I Read in October video, which I will link in the description. And like I say in all my reviews, this is solely about the book and not about the author as a person. I'm sure he is lovely. But let's go ahead and see what this promised. Beware the one who got away. Father Silence once terrorized the rural town of Twisted Tree, disguising himself as a priest to prey on the most vulnerable members of society. When the police finally found his House of Horrors, they uncovered 19 bodies and one survivor, a boy now locked away in a hospital for the criminally insane. Nearly 2 decades later, Father Silence is finally put to death. But by the next morning, the detective who made the original arrest is found dead. A new serial killer is taking credit for the murder and calling himself the Outcast. The detective's daughter, Tess Claiborne, is a detective herself, haunted by childhood trauma and horrified by the death of her father and the resurgence of Father Silence's legacy. When Tess's daughter is kidnapped by the Outcast, Tess is forced to face her worst fears and long-buried memories. With no leads to follow, she travels back to Twisted Tree to visit the boy who survived and see what secrets might be buried in the tangled web of his broken mind. With captivating prose and an old-school horror flair, Sleep Tight is a must-read, haunting tale from a true master of the genre. So, first things first, the marketing of this is, I'm going to be nice and say somewhat misleading. This is not horror. I am amazed that this won a Goodreads award for Best Horror. How? This is, like, at best, this is a thrilling police procedural. There's mystery, but the horror elements feel like a horror movie that was edited for TV. Like, we never really see the horror elements. Like, there's a whole thing of cult members wearing animal masks and barking or mooing or whatever their respective animal does. But honestly, after a while, it was just comical and not scary. This is also a kitchen sink book. Everything is thrown at us just to see what sticks. We've got cults, kidnappings, infidelity, pill popping, repressed memories, revenge killings, nuns and priests, violence against children, dissociative identity disorder, SA. I mean, this has everything in it. Like, put it all in there, and surely one plot point will scare readers. It's too much. Like, it almost felt like, let's keep adding things, because that'll be fun. I'm not having fun. I'm not having fun at all. So we start the book with, like, basically mini prologues and excerpts talking about Father Silence's arrest and all the dead people found on his property. There's also a news clipping of 2 teen boys that were found near the property that surely must be connected. And an excerpt of a child named Noah who is, like, coloring, and he is absolutely terrified of his mother who is, like, threatening to do something to him. So we then meet up with Tess, who is one of the most wet blanket characters I have ever read in a while. But she's very anxious because Father Silence, the kidnapper who ran this House of Horrors, is finally being executed. This hits really close to home as her father was the detective who arrested Father Silence. Now, before he's electrocuted, he finally speaks after years of silence and basically just says, "Beware the one who got away." Apparently, Father Silence is made of some pretty tough stuff, as it takes, like, multiple zaps before he finally heads on down to hell. Tess and her father breathe a sigh of relief that it's finally all over. The next day, Tess gets a call and finds out that, it's not all over because your parents are dead. Her parents were brutally murdered in their home. And it kind of points to being a revenge killing, as there are newspaper clippings about Father Silence, like, tacked right in front of them. But before Tess can even process what happened or even start to mourn, her day gets worse as she finds out her daughter Julia is absent from school. A classmate says that a man claiming to be an uncle, which she has no uncles, basically asked this classmate to take Julia's backpack to school. The kidnapper does leave a Polaroid picture of Julia and a note saying that she is safe in the back of Tess's dad's stolen car. The note is signed by the Outcast. Now, Tess is a detective herself and tells her partner Danny about Julia's kidnapping. Danny is also best friends with Justin, who is Tess's kind of estranged husband. Maybe they're not estranged. Their marriage is definitely on shaky grounds, as Justin recently cheated on Tess and was kicked out of the house. Tess's problems are only compounded by her addictions, as she drinks a ton of bourbon, just like her father, so she considers that not really a problem because, she's just like him. She's also addicted to painkillers in the past and has come across a new batch of pills and has kind of pocketed them, just in case. Tess also doesn't love that Justin is the preferred parent, something that Julia has made quite clear. I really do feel for Tess, but I also gotta agree with Julia because I would probably like Justin more. Again, Tess is such a wet blanket. So Danny, being a good friend, I think he's the godfather of Julia, and just a good detective, is jumping on this case. He's going to help find her. And Tess is also going to insert herself, even though she's been told by her chief that she is officially not a part of it. Danny continues working and sends Tess on home to rest. His wife, Eliza, comes over to keep an eye on Tess and make sure that she's okay. She's definitely not okay, as she stole some pills from her parents' house when she went to the crime scene to see it and just starts popping them like they're Pringles. Again, on the one hand, I get it. She is in pain. She wants the pain to go away and to basically feel nothing. She's also a detective. You think she would want a clear head and to have her wits about her, especially since she thinks her daughter is in some severe danger. They do find out that the kidnapper is on the move and heading to Twisted Tree, and Tess and Justin decide to head that way too. We also have a conversation with Tess and Eliza because Julia is their only child, whereas Eliza and Danny apparently do not use any form of birth control and just have popped out multiple children. Even though then we find out that Eliza got her tubes tied with the last kid but didn't tell Danny, so he still assumes, we're going to continue having more kids, which I'm like, that's a healthy marriage. And then grossly, we also kind of find out that Tess got pregnant again, but wasn't very excited about it. She kind of just wanted to be a one and done situation. She does have a miscarriage, which is traumatic. That is very unfortunate. That sucks. But the book kind of paints it as she had the miscarriage because she wasn't that excited about the pregnancy, and it rubbed me the wrong way. And again, we're going back to the kitchen sink analogy. We're just throwing everything in this book because it's kind of just there, and then we never talk about it again. Okay? If you're gonna go down that route, finish it. Back in the story, we get the point of view of a woman named Lisa Buchanan, who now lives in the House of Horrors and has to deal with vandals and weirdos trying to come get close to the house. They want to, be near where it happened. And she doesn't do herself many favors because she also says, the house is talking to her, and she'll get visions about what happened there, where other things might be happening. And don't worry, we're going to meet her again later. So Danny, Tess, and Justin arrive in Twisted Tree, and they basically start learning about this cult called the Lost Children. They worship Father Silence and dress like basically cheap furries wearing rubber animal masks. Why? It doesn't really make much sense since Father Silence went after people. But whatever, we've got this whole cult of people wearing animal masks and hooting and bleeding all over the place. Again, this cult aspect, I'm like, I don't think this was very thought out well. It's there to be creepy, but we don't actually think through it logically. which, like, most cults are run for a purpose, like that purpose being money, but, like, it doesn't really make any sense. Anyway, they all get to town, and their first stop is at the Barringer Hills Hospital for the Criminally Insane to visit a man named Noah, who was that survivor from the night that Father Silence was arrested. Noah did not drink the poison wine, unlike the other people, so there were a few other children that were found deceased on the property. They basically think they knew the police were onto them, so they were trying to get rid of the kids, but Noah did not drink it, so he survived, he escaped, but the trauma that he endured during that time has basically put him away in this hospital. I should mention that Justin is a psychologist. This will become important soon. So the warden of the hospital is excited to see others interact with Noah, and of course we fall into the trope of a maybe serial killer having DID or dissociative identity disorder. Noah is the host, but then there's Dean, Amelia, Stephen, Tom, Oscar, Ruth, and the outcast as alternates. Dun dun dun! The outcast is Noah. But how? Like, Noah is locked down pretty tight. It cannot be him. There's no way he was able to cross state lines to murder Tess's parents. At this point, Tess is starting to have some flashbacks and unearth her repressed memories from around that time. How convenient. And she remembers being at the House of Horrors the night that Father Silence was arrested. First of all, why? And second of all, how did she get there? And of course, now she decides it's the perfect time to pop another pill. Girl, you need your wits about you. Which is kind of funny because later she's going to try and separate herself from other drug addicts because she's not pathetic like them, which is rich considering her daughter is in danger, and instead of using every brain cell available to her, she's slowing them down and numbing her brain. Great idea, Tess. Not pathetic at all. So after they're done kind of being mean to Noah in order to get his alternates to come forward and host, because they want to get information out of them, since Noah himself doesn't remember anything, his alternates were there, so they are the ones who have the memories. Remember how I said that Justin is a psychologist? Well, his fucking license needs to be revoked. There is no way a professional would treat Noah the way that he and Tess end up treating him, especially knowing his history. So they're done playing mental torture mind games with him, and they end up leaving the hospital. Outside of it, Tess and Justin are ambushed by cult members, but at least Tess does have her brains, apparently, because she shoots one of them. By the time she gets over to him, he has slit his own wrists so that they won't be able to question him or get any information out of him. At this point, Danny realizes something. What if they kidnap Julia in order to use her as bait to get Tess to come home? They compiled a revenge list of potential victims, and Danny says, we overlooked the most obvious one, Tess. How did they not think this already? Wasn't this obvious that this was about Tess? They killed her parents, they took her daughter. If I ever go missing, please do not assign these two to my case, because they are bad at their jobs. I'll never be found. So Tess wants to go talk to Lisa Buchanan, the woman now living in Father Silence's house. Lisa's life is fucking full of tragedy, as the home belonged to her grandparents before Father Silence owned it, but her grandparents had a falling out with her parents. Then her grandpa one day just started shooting his animals on the farm because he said they were sick, and then he shoots himself. And then Lisa's dad, back at their house, shoots her mom and then hangs himself. So homegirl is messed up. She came back to Twisted Tree to buy the house that belongs to her family and try to make it better. Good luck to you, girl. So Tess gets all weird at this point and keeps asking Lisa if, were you married? Do you have kids? And just asking her generally inappropriate questions that have absolutely nothing to do with the case. On the way out, Lisa whispers something into Justin's ear, and Tess asks about it, but Justin deflects the question. So back at the hotel, Tess pops another pill and blacks out. So Justin calls Lisa, as what she had whispered to him was that she might have information about where Julia is. He meets her at a bar, and she tells him, I've got visions. She had a vision of a boat, and that, maybe the kidnapper took to the rivers instead of the sky or roads when bringing Julia back to Twisted Tree. But Lisa isn't the only one having visions. So we see the outcast, who's Julia's kidnapper, and he has quite a few other children in his care. He basically built this thing called the Playhouse for them, and his goal is to take care of abandoned, forgotten children. He knows that Julia doesn't quite fit, that she has parents that love her, but he still kidnapped her. But he suddenly starts having, not exactly visions, but telepathic messages between himself and Noah. How? Not a clue. This is never explained, and it drives me bonkers. Because we know that Noah has an alternate called the Outcast, but we also see the Outcast in a physical form, and they communicate telepathically, somehow. It's not Noah, but who is the Outcast then, and how are they connected? On the hunt to get some answers, Justin tries once more to get Noah's alternates to host so he can talk to them. Danny goes and looks into Father Silence's past for answers, and Tess is just sitting on the sidelines popping more pills. Danny finds out that Father Silence, after losing his parents in a house fire when he was a child, though they can't prove that he was the one who started the fire, he ended up going to an orphanage run by nuns. The nuns thought he was polite and, fine enough, though pretty quiet, but he developed a friendship with this one girl, Diane. And Diane is a bad girl. She was a bad influence. So we also find out that the orphanage was shut down after a man was killed in the courtyard. Most think by Father Silence, but this one nun kind of thinks, or actually knows, differently. She knows that it was Diane. She knows because she saw it, and then Diane cut out the nun's tongue to keep her from sharing the secret. She didn't break her hands, though. She could have written this down years ago. The nun also shares that Diane was pregnant at the time. She killed the man in the courtyard because he was the father of her baby, and it wasn't exactly consensual activities that led to this child's conception. So when Danny returns to the orphanage, he finds Diane's room, and it overlooks the cemetery. How Addams Family-esque. And he spots a particular grave. That of a Lisa Buchanan, who died in 1926. The Lisa that they met isn't really Lisa. In Diane's room, there are a bunch of creepy vintage dolls with the words, "Mother loves you, sleep tight," written above them. How original, and what a title drop. Because honestly, this title does not make sense. Sleep tight. It's mentioned 3 times, and it's a good title. It's not a good title for this book. So Danny's poking around Diane's room, and then he gets shot by a man in a mask. Now, I will say there was a pretty good use of Chekhov's gun here, as whenever Danny leaves for work, his wife Eliza always asks if he has his Kevlar on, so he is able to survive the shooting because he was prepared. Now, Tess loses major points here as Eliza calls her, panicking, because she was on the phone with Danny when it happened. She leaves Tess a voicemail telling her that Danny was shot, and Tess texts back, "I'm so sorry, keep in touch." Bitch, what? Your partner, your husband's best friend, and your best friend's husband was just shot, and you send back a text saying, "keep in touch"? He was shot trying to find your daughter, and the best you got is "keep in touch"? That's what I would say if I ran into someone from high school and was just trying to be polite. Yep, keep in touch. So back in Twisted Tree, someone tries to murder a priest, but is saved by the church's music director. And at the scene, Tess is introduced to the man and just gets a really weird feeling about him. And he kind of scuttles on out of there. He's wearing sunglasses, but he's inside. And no, he's not a douche. He is blind. Or so he's telling people. Somehow, Tess leaps to the conclusion that he's the one who kidnapped Julia. She's not wrong, but come on. I get it, we're getting to the end here, but give me more than that. So, the not-so-blind music director is a man named Benjamin Knowles, also known as the Outcast, also known as the son of Diane. He wears sunglasses because he was pretty much raised in the dark, as his mother did not want him, and so his eyes didn't fully develop correctly, I'm guessing. We're told over and over and over again how freaky and creepy his eyes are, but they're never described more than that, so I don't really know what freaky means here. So then Tess is chasing down Benjamin. Benjamin goes home and finds that his children have been taken, and Justin is still working with Noah trying to get some answers. Now, stupidly, at one point, they take Noah out of the hospital and take him back to his childhood home, thinking surely some trauma will unlock some of the things that he's keeping secret, especially two of the alternates who they haven't been able to get to come out. And of course, it all gets foobarred when the Outcast personality comes out. He basically hulks out and throws people across the room and then jumps out a window. Great, now he's loose. So he eventually does return back to his childhood home to set it on fire, and Justin is able to find him there. He's finally able to make contact with the alternate of Oscar, who remembers being in Father Silence's house. Oscar lets Justin know that there is one more alternate hiding within inside Noah, and that is the alternate of Mother. Mother is a murderous bitch. After Noah was rescued, he did end up going home and killed his own father, but it's revealed that Mother was actually at the helm at the time. She is the one who killed the father. But it's also Mother is Diane, because Mother is actually Benjamin's mother. Mother is the true mastermind behind everything. Father Silence was just following her. She is the leader of this weirdo animal mask wearing cult. How? Why? It's never explained. But she does intend to sacrifice Tess. She and her minions have dug up Father Silence to resurrect him. Honestly, this part of the book is getting so confusing. I have no idea what their plans were. I don't know if this was supposed to be symbolic or they actually thought they could bring him back from the dead. Anyway, they have all of Benjamin's kidnapped children there as the 12 disciples. Again, why? I'm not sure. I'm sure there is some symbolism that is just flying over my head, but I don't care. Blah, blah, blah. They want to kill Tess because she's the reason that Father Silence was caught. When she was a teen, she went to his house and asked for a glass of water and then put that cup in a little baggie so they could lift some prints off of it. The prints matched a crime scene, so the police were able to get, a arrest warrant, go get him, and they found the children in the basement. Back then, it was Benjamin who helped Noah escape, and then Benjamin took off into the woods, and Tess, who had crept into her dad's police cruiser, was at the scene, and then follows Benjamin into the woods. We then get a missing piece of the puzzle that was a subplot that really should have been deleted. Remember at the beginning, those two, teenage boys' bodies that were found on the property? We're gonna get an answer for that, and it's stupid. So Tess runs after Benjamin, wanting to save him, not realizing that he's the kid of the person that's behind it all. While she's talking to him, two drunk assholes stumble upon them, dragging a drugged girl with them. Now, of course, they threaten to assault her, and Benjamin snaps and hits one of the guys in the head with a hammer. Tess beats on this guy's dead body a bit, then the drug girl takes down the other guy. They make a pact that they are never going to speak of this. Again, what are we doing here? Tess's memories end up being blocked because she watched Benjamin and this girl kill two guys. It's not even related to Father Silence, besides the fact that it happened on his property, and because Benjamin is there. What in the what are we doing here? Why? Why is so much happening? This is so stupid. So back in the present, Benjamin is furious that Mother took his kids. He is done with her and her shenanigans and bludgeons her to death. The police descend and just start shooting the cult members and Benjamin, who is surrounded by children, which I'm police, maybe don't kill the guy when he's using little kids as human shields. And honestly, it's kind of sad that I was hoping for a happy ending for the kidnapper instead of our actual main characters. Like, Benjamin is a pretty sympathetic character given what he was raised in. So Tess, Justin, and Julia all survive. They get to go back home as a family. All is forgiven with Justin's cheating. Oscar/Noah sends Justin a postcard from San Francisco that's vaguely threatening. No clue how Noah has not been caught, since surely people are looking for him and he has no money or ID. But whatever, we're at the end. Hurrah. Again, this book is just a lot, and at times it is needlessly confusing and convoluted. And give me some real answers here. What is up with the telepathic connection between Noah and Benjamin? Just because Noah has DID does not mean he's an X-Man. That didn't happen with the mother alternate. I also have to question, what has Diane been doing the whole time since Father Silence's arrest? What's the point of the cult? What do they believe in? How does mooing on all fours get them what they want? How is she recruiting them, especially in this tiny town? How do they all know that Mother is the leader and revere her when she seemed to want to keep her operations like pretty small and did not mind hiding behind Father Silence and throwing him under the bus? Was she actually trying to bring him back to life? Why was Father Silence's lawyer a cult member in the end? Why did he let Tess keep her phone when he kidnapped her and then steal it right after she had texted everyone the information that they needed to find her? Why isn't the climax of the book happening at the actual House of Horrors? Why did Diane keep Benjamin in the first place? And I am not a psychologist, but the representation of DID in this was kind of weird. Like, some of Noah's alternates are ones he, absorbed, like the mother and the outcast, but he also absorbed Dean, Stephen, Tom, and Amelia, and they were real kids. They're the ones who drank the poison wine. Is it realistic that Noah would steal the identities of real kids when they died? Again, I don't know, but it just felt kind of weird to me. And I did not love how, of course, the guy with the mental illness and DID is the murderous one and can become really scary. I really think somebody watched Split and thought, this is a completely accurate representation of this diagnosis. And for a book about the House of Horrors, I never got what was so scary for the children. It didn't even seem like they were there that long. The kidnapping is traumatic, yes. But other than that, it didn't read like Father Silence was torturing these kids. The most horrifying thing was probably making them drink poison wine at the end. Otherwise, it kind of sounds like Diane and the good father really went after bad adults and killed them. Those were the 19 bodies that were really found. I'm disappointed by this. It has a really great idea, but it also has too many ideas and way too many characters. My God, were there too many people in this? And the ending of this is just fucking chaotic. I went into this expecting a horror read for spooky season, and I was not scared at all. I don't know with this book. This was exhausting to keep track of, but also kind of boring when I think back on it. And again, I cannot call this a horror book. This is a detective mystery. Now, I do have to quote a reviewer from Goodreads, whose review I really did enjoy. Trex Maniacally said, "Now don't get me wrong, it's not like the book doesn't try to scare you. It's got all the ingredients: disturbing childhood trauma, asylum creepiness, dark woods, the lingering echo of a legendary killer. But it never really shoves your face in it. It gestures vaguely toward the horror and expects you to flinch, like a ghost standing in the corner muttering, 'Boo, I guess.' And that's the thing. Sleep Tight doesn't scream. It whispers, constantly. For some readers, that's a masterpiece of restraint. For me, it's maddening. I don't want my horror sedated. I want it bloody, unhinged, and actively trying to kill me. This felt like going to a haunted house, only to find out that it's just a dude reading Edgar Allan Poe by candlelight and asking how that makes you feel. It's the book that makes you sad, cold, and vaguely unsettled, like someone just told you a ghost story, but forgot to include the ghost. I hate to say it, but I ended up giving this 2 stars. I was kind of hate reading this by the end, but I did actually finish it. I still have questions. I still wanted a more straightforward story, as this seems to think like multiple side plots and side quests, just there as distractions, count as building a good story. And I wanted to be scared. I could not take the people in masks seriously at the end, and I could not take the cringy like villain dialogue seriously either. So for something that was supposed to be like a masterpiece in horror, I'm not seeing it, my guy. Now, I do think that this would play out much better on screen, and it seems that Markert's had experience with screenwriting, and it definitely shows. Maybe this could translate to the screen really well, but as a book, this was frustrating, and it's more frustrating because it actually has potential. There is a good story within these pages. It's just trying so hard to be so many things that it ends up not doing anything really well. It's a disappointment because like this cover is freaking gorgeous. The ideas are good. I just don't know what we were doing here. Okay, if you have any recommendations for good spooky books, please leave your suggestions in the comments below. Otherwise, thanks for joining me at Wine Club.